What?
Welcome to the Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 meeting of the Long Meadow School Committee. School committees and other public bodies may continue to hold remote meetings through March 31st, 2025 under legislation enacted on March 29th, 2023. The statute, Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 extends quorum reductions or remote meetings. All votes while there is remote participation must be made by roll call vote. The meeting is being recorded and aired live on LCTV. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, correspondence.
We have correspondence, specifically 2 emails from Mr. Joel Illouz to Kevin Kripsky, received on the 11th of March this year, 2025, regarding menu choices for school lunches. We also have an email from Mr. Kevin Kripsky, the Director of Food Services for Fresh Picks Cafe, answering Mr. Illouz's questions.
Thank you. All right, we have a recommended motion for minutes.
I move that the school committee approve the minutes for the March 11th, 2025 school committee meeting as presented.
Well, I think, did you say March 11th or did you say 25th?
March 11th,
Oh, okay, sorry.
2025.
Okay, got it.
That's for the 25.
All right, yep, give me a second.
Yep.
Great. Any discussion?
I have nothing to
right.
discuss.
Adam?
I will say yay.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Estelle? Estelle, we can't hear you. Can you hear us?
Estelle, check, check.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry, thanks. And yes for me too. All right, so moving on to public comments. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Awesome, go ahead, you can come up and
Yeah, you can come up to
sit
the
up
microphone.
here and say your name and your business,
Yeah.
your
Your street?
address.
Yeah, your street.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Alan Icegrow, 26 Cobblestone Road, Long Meadow. So I'm here tonight because being a Jewish member of the community, I'm seeing more and more anti-Semitism come into our school system. And comments on Facebook and Long Meadow Facebook pages, where some of the comments that are made are probably, they're misinformed maybe a little bit, but, you know, they blame obviously our political climate and all that good stuff, and, you know, it's this person, it's that person, but it's truly the parents at the house and the upbringing, because the kids are hearing it somewhere, and generally it's either there or social media, and I would say it's up to the parent or the teacher in the school, when heard, to put that person in place. And so I'm here tonight on behalf of the Jewish community in Long Meadow, because I've spoken to quite a few that just won't come and show their face, and I'm not that person. And I heard Joel Illouz, he's a big member in there as well. But what we don't hear as the Jewish community is what we're doing in our schools to combat what's happening. All it is I've heard of 5 instances already. My kid was one of them in the middle school with a music teacher comparing the Holocaust to a musical instrument, right? Like, just little comments. I've heard kids called Hail Hitler. I've seen now 2 SWAT stickers in the high school, one in high school, one here. You know, things that hurt us as a community are, you know, it was a small or little, and I know that was a whole big thing at one point, but it doesn't matter if it's small or big, it's happening in front of us. And this latest incident, I think what the community is waiting for is what happened after the fact. and I know it's sensitive because it's a student, obviously, that did it, but did the police get this person? Did they not? Do I have to worry that I have to walk my dog at night and look over my shoulder every night, that some crazy person might do something because I'm Jewish? Like, it's very weird. Now, we did take the right steps, in my opinion, by holding an assembly, and we had that, but that was it. And in my opinion, that should have been like an assembly, or have a Holocaust survivor. We have actually one in our community right now that's a student's grandfather. And he's one of like 100 people that are still living in that area. But he could probably open up some eyes. So that's why I'm here tonight. I just wanted to bring awareness to it, because I feel like sometimes it just falls on deaf ears. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. And Ellen, I'd love to connect with you at some point, if it's
Yeah.
possible, talk to you a little bit about
Yeah, absolutely.
some of the strategies that we're working on, and you know, we want to raise the issue when we see it,
Yeah.
and be really transparent with the community, and address it with our kids, and investigate it firmly with the police involved as well. But I'd love the chance to chat with you more about it and maybe trade some ideas, and
Yeah, sure.
and
I'm open both
yeah.
ways.
Thank you.
Look, I'm not here to cause problems
Yeah.
or to say, like, I just want to make sure there's awareness. Like, we don't hear anything. Like, all those strategies you're talking, like,
Yeah.
we have never heard of any of it. So, yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be willing.
Thank you. Appreciate the chance to
Hold on.
talk. All right.
No.
Somebody signed in.
All right.
All good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, so moving on to school committee announcements and recognitions. There's no school committee chair report tonight. Is there any other committee member announcements or recognitions? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to administrative reports. Superintendent report.
Sure. There was a report in your packet. I wanted to mention just a couple things. We had a great day today. I suspect Andrew will mention this later, at the high school, a day of sort of alternative learning, and the vision of the graduate was on full display. We had students in grades 9, 11, and 12 involved in a series of workshops on career awareness and financial literacy and study skills and time management, all those sort of VOG life skills that we talk about all the time. So it was an opportunity for everybody to sort of pause and step away from typical content and focus on these other important things that I mentioned. And maybe the highlight was, they call it a Teen Reality Fair. It's sometimes known as a Credit for Life Fair, and students had an opportunity to sort of imagine themselves as 25-year-olds trying to make ends meet with a credit score and with loans and with apartment costs and entertainment bills and food bills. And it was a really rich day for students. And we had some alumni come back to talk to our seniors about the transition out of high schools. That was really good. So it was a great day, and you know, kind of a reminder that, you know, there's sometimes there's times where we just need to pause to focus on those sort of life skills that we're also trying to introduce students to. Couple other things quickly. Vertical integration has been the theme of the day with our directors, with curriculum director Beth Nelson, special education director Nicole Paris-Crowe, and director of student and family support Nilda Irizarry. They have in recent weeks been trying to find many opportunities for our educators to connect vertically with the educators above and below them in grade levels, and that was the focus of our day, our release day on March 14th. So we appreciate the school committee supporting a calendar that gives our educators the time that they need. The conversations with our legislators continues on the FY26 budget. Assistant Superintendent Mazza and I had an opportunity to head over to the Ludlow Senior Center last Friday, met with a coalition of town managers and other finance directors and other school personnel and some elected officials to sort of strategize and trade information on the FY26 budget. So it was a really helpful day, good chance to talk about our budget challenges with the town manager, who's been really supportive. The middle school project is a little further on, just as an ongoing item on your agenda, but just mention a couple of things. April 10th, can mark our calendars. We're planning a public engagement event on our middle school. We really want to sort of ramp back up our communication with the public on our progress with the middle school. This Friday, there's an opportunity, a site conference it's called, at Williams Middle School. Prospective bidders to serve as our contractor on the project. We'll have an opportunity to visit the site, and that's on Friday. Mr. Maz and I have been working with the design team to ensure that we can certify that we are getting sustainability credits. If we can establish the sustainability features of the building, it will lead to further incentive points with the MSBA. So that is ongoing. And for anyone who's listening, another mark your calendar event, Thursday, April 3rd, is a public presentation on the town's feasibility study. You'll recall that the town funded a feasibility study to explore our options with the playing surface at the stadium field. So at the Long Meadow Adult Center, Thursday, April 3rd, 6:30. So I hope we get some good community turnout and we get some feedback on what our options are, whether it be turf or the synthetic option. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions you might have on those things.
Anyone have any questions or comments?
Can I just make one
Yep.
comment? Whenever, after you do have the conversation in regards to kind of what the guest said earlier, could we kind of revisit that
Sure.
too?
Yeah.
I know I had that conversation with my child, middle schooler, who was kind of at the school. And I don't think there is, bringing light to it and the gravity of kind of what you're saying. My child kind of got what it was, but I don't think they truly understand,
Yeah.
whenever you say that. And I think we do have a lot of politicians who throw that term around way too loosely, and kind of then a child may hear it on sort of social media and think that saying that they don't really understand, what it actually, what occurred and the
Yeah.
gravity of it.
Yeah.
So my kid was not educated enough. He explained to me what it was, but then I went into detail and I explained to him like what it was, so I don't think a lot of parents, especially mine's only a 7th grader, so he didn't take that extra step. But my son needed that extra
Yeah.
step because he didn't quite get, really what does that mean? He knew of it, he heard of it. So I think even high schoolers, I think they know it to a certain degree, but if we have a survivor in the neighborhood, I used to live next to one as well, and their viewpoint and their views on this would be a wonderful thing for them to obviously share, because their viewpoint's probably very different than what you and I and all of us think. So I just think to revisit it and just kind of work on it over time would not be a bad thing. You're not going to fix this all in one thing. It's
Right.
it's something you gotta change over time. So, but I think kind of coming back to it and making it a priority of ours isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously hugely troubling, and then I think the chance to talk to the committee about that would be great, great
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
Especially bring up an important point about educating the kids.
Yeah.
Like, that's what our job is.
And the sensitivity. I mean, it's hard to explain that even to a middle schooler. I mean, they don't get it. My even older sons, even high school kids, they learned about it, but you're not teaching it to the full extent of what really occurred. I mean, so I think it's fair to kind of maybe re-educate in a different way, and maybe we just look at it in a different way. So, because it'll probably make everything better if one of them ends up being a politician one day. Maybe they'll hesitate whenever they go to say something, and kind of pull back and go, yeah, maybe that's not appropriate. Because everyone hears what you're saying.
All right.
Very true. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, none? All right, student representative report.
Okay, just to start off, the spring sports season has begun, so good luck to all of our athletes as they begin their competition. And then this doesn't really directly affect LPS or LHS, but tomorrow, March 26th, there is a fundraiser at Jersey Mike's, where all proceeds generated tomorrow will go to the Be Like Cat Foundation, which goes to support scholarships for LHS students, and just is in honor of Katerina Boskovic. So I think that's a really important fund to get behind as Long Meadow residents and as members of the LHS and LPS community. So if you do get the chance, please stop by tomorrow, make a purchase. It goes to a really good cause. And then a reminder that the second day of sophomore MCAS is tomorrow, and while the first day of MCAS was occurring today, the other 3 grades had our special day of learning. As seniors, we had a panel with former LHS students regarding talking about their different career paths, whether it included college or not college. We had a Long Meadow police officer who was an LHS alum. We had a real estate marketing consultant, I believe, who was an LHS alum. So we had to kind of hear their stories, how they went about their lives, how to tackle burnout, etc. It was really informative. And then we also had a speaker who has dealt with substance abuse and opioids, and we had to hear her story about how she recovered. And I think that was really important for many of us to hear as we go off to college, as many of us go off to college, not all of us, and will be exposed to a lot of substances. So that was also really important to hear. I know the juniors had their courses today where they got to sort of, as Dr. Shea said, act like they were 25 and deal with credit cards and having a career. They could pick their career and have their budget. And then the freshmen also got to learn more about time management. So I think it was a really good day for us to kind of focus on things we can't learn in the classroom, get more hands-on experiences, and it was just a really nice day out of the classroom for us to just get more knowledge. It was really great. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks. Any comments or questions for Andrew?
It's really important to get 25 down. I was an idiot at 25, so any experience to help, get through that, that's good.
Work in progress.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, my wife would definitely second that.
All right, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
All right, subcommittee, additional reports, LPBEC.
I went.
Yes.
We still had a mix-up of which one we were at, but I got there and I voted, and we're paying for things, which is great. And then I tried to sit in on the other meeting because Zach got stuck behind a train, but they didn't like that. So I wasn't much good at the second meeting. But all they talked about was the buses, and that the electric bus that caught the other 4 electric buses, and what they were going to do about the buses, because they didn't want to buy new buses to take care of the buses that burnt, but they were going to have to anyways, and we didn't buy any new buses to replete the fleet, so we were going to need to buy buses anyways. So I left because I couldn't vote, but my suspicion is they're going to buy more buses. So it was a very exciting meeting. But I think we can still vote, so that's good. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, SEAL, we had a meeting last week, the 12th, about the budget and kind of just going over how state funding and things getting wrapped up with state legislators
Exciting.
has a big impact now more than ever, and how important it is to continue to reach out to the legislators, as I know the administrators are, as school committee members we are, and as Massachusetts residents continue citizens, yes. Continue to reach out, because as we say here a lot, the cost of doing business is expensive.
Going up.
Energy and sustainability.
Hi, they're gonna have their meeting on March 31st. That is it.
Sounds sustainable.
Great. So we're moving on to subcommittee reports. There's no report for the finance subcommittee. Policy subcommittee, we met yesterday on Monday, the 24th, and we discussed a couple policies that had to do with operations and wellness and sexual harassment. Made some comments, and they're going to come to the full committee in the future, in the spring.
Yeah. I mean, shifting Title IX regulations,
Yeah.
great discussion on that. Nilda Rosari, an update on our wellness policy, so that'll come to the full committee. Tom talking about student activity accounts, so we'll bring, and try to move away from checking accounts, so that was good. And then also the committee gathered and talked about our Narcan. We're doing some great work making students aware of
Opioids.
of
That was
opioid
included today
crisis.
as well.
and-
We got
Yeah.
our Narcan training.
There you go. And
Full
so,
circle.
yeah, and so if we're making the dosages available to students, we just want to make sure, I think that policy sub felt we want to make sure that we're putting parents on notice and that we're communicating with families on our important efforts in that area. So we covered a lot of ground, for sure, yeah. Yeah.
So that leads us right into the curriculum subcommittee report that we had a meeting the Monday before that, the 17th, and we also had an update from Nilda about the SEL curriculum, and we did talk about how that is in the curriculum, and so we just had to update it in our policy, but and we got an update on the elementary literacy curriculum and the middle school math, a really thorough update on how the teachers view the math curriculum and the data from student assessments.
Yeah, great meeting. Beth Nelson, really strong update on the elementary literacy. I know that's been an important topic to the school committee, and some of the benchmark data that Beth has been looking at is very, very encouraging for elementary literacy. So, yeah, appreciate the chance to bring the committee up to speed on those things.
We like kids reading.
Yes, we
Yeah.
do.
And I know we discussed the writing is really what's,
Mhm.
and it's funny because I think the next day I had Declan's, or that week, I don't know. At
Yeah.
some point I had his parent-teacher
the
conference,
conference,
and
yeah.
it's crazy to think about how his writing has
How
improved
much,
so much.
yeah, the curriculum's been great.
Yeah.
And the content.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay.
So, yeah. All right, so now we're moving on to ongoing business. Middle school building project update.
Mostly hit the items in my report, but again, I just would highlight April 10th, public engagement event on the middle school. We'll get information out about that hopefully this week.
And the third is a separate,
The third is a separate conversation
Just about
on
turf?
the playing surface at the stadium field at the high school.
but it doesn't include the middle school?
Does not include the middle
Oh.
school, yeah, just to focus on the decision, how to improve the playing surface at the stadium field, whether to pursue a grass solution or an artificial turf solution. So,
All right, great. So then we're on to new business. So we have a consent agenda for building use requests.
So yes, good evening. Tonight in your packet, there are 5 building use requests for consideration through a consent agenda. 3 of them are from the Park and Rec Department. One is for a co-ed basketball clinic for grades 3 through 9 from July 7th through the 11th at the high school in the gym from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. The second is for a track and field camp the same week, July 7th through the 11th, from 9 to 12 out on the field and track area at the high school. The third is for a volleyball camp for grades 5 through 9, July 21st through the 23rd, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the high school gym. Your fourth request is from the Impressions Dance, the Impressions Academy of Dance for their annual dance recital, June 7th and 8th, at the high school auditorium and use of the cafeteria for the dates at the times as listed. And the last one is a request from the Wolf Swamp PTO for a 5th grade end of year social for use of the Wolf Swamp Gym on June 6th from 3 to 9 p.m.
Awesome, so there's no discussion for a consent agenda. So if a committee member would like one or more items of the consent agenda discussed, it would have to be removed from the consent agenda. So does anyone have anything they want to discuss from the consent agenda? No, so then do we have a recommended motion?
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the consent agenda for the March 25th, 2025 school committee as presented.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Great, Adam,
Yay.
Jamie,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Estelle,
Yes.
and yes for me too. All right, next for new business is the FY26 budget reconsideration.
All right, happy to jump in. So as the committee knows, but just making sure that we're keeping the community up to speed on this, the budget that the town manager had recommended to the select board last night had recommended a 3% increase over FY '25, so that there's a difference between what the town manager had recommended to the select board and what the school committee had voted back on February 11th. You'll recall, the school committee had approved a budget that was a 3.2% increase over FY '25, so the difference between the voted budget of the school committee and the town manager's recommended budget is about $81,396. So the school committee, when that happens, typically the school committee will sort of take a look at its voted budget to determine whether or not it wants to realign its request to bring it in line with the town manager's recommendation. And so tonight we have for you a path forward if that's what you wanted to do. If you wanted to align your voted budget to bring it in line with the town manager's budget. And so I'll just do a sort of a quick screen share here to address how we could make that happen. So you'll see, oops, if this were to be the path that you took, you'll note that the school committee's voted budget was $81,397 more than what the town manager had recommended to the select board. If you were to revise your budget request, it would mean a $41,394,307 allocation from the town's general fund. Again, $81,397 less than you had voted. On February 11th, the special revenue projections remain the same, and you'll see the change in your overall budget incorporating both the general fund revenue source and the special revenues. And so to achieve that, credit to Mr. Mazza for sort of looking across our cost centers, looking across the organization to identify some ways that we might be able to bring your voted budget in line with the town managers. And so for your consideration is some additional reductions to the FY26 budget. And so we have identified, since February 11th, since you had voted the budget originally, some additional sources of attrition. So an additional retirement has surfaced, and so there would be some savings in that area when you hire new employees lower on the pay scale than our retiring educators. There's savings typically. With no major curriculum adoption on the horizon, we think we can safely reduce that line item by $10,000. Consumable supplies, this is a few years back, the committee had increased its this line item to be sure that we were not sort of exceeding what we can reasonably expect parents to supply to classrooms. But even with this reduction, we think we can, still be mindful of the requests that our classroom educators are making on families for classroom supplies. We still want to take the position that the items that, that are generally supplied to the classroom are our responsibility. The supplies that students individually consume might be more dependent on families, but general classroom supplies ought to be our responsibility. So again, we think we can make that reduction safely without changing our practice. District ELL curriculum coordination, our administrators, especially Director of Student and Family Support Neil D'Irizarry, has really increased their capacity to lead and coordinate EL services. So I wouldn't say that this will reduce the service that we provide to our students who are English language learners. Really, it's a reflection of some of the increased capacity that our administrators have in this area. Evaluation expenses for pupil services. This is a line item that has not been fully expended in recent years. It relates to outside contracted evaluation services. We don't see this as changing our day-to-day operations. It wouldn't result in a decrease in services, but it's simply a line that it probably brings us more in line with where we've been historically on that line item. Computer hardware and repairs, just some miscellaneous reductions there. And then with athletic programming, we think that we can explore some savings in the area of site management or transportation to achieve the $10,000 reduction that is posted here. So for your consideration, and without going through the full budget presentation, this is how the revised budget would appear. Again, we're very much dependent on the town's general fund. General fund increase would be $1.2 million, just over that amount. And you'll see how that 3% increase that we would be considering here for FY26, how that stacks up to increases in the last 10 or 15 years. You can see that it's a request that is pretty much in line with where we've been in recent years, and I think it's a modest proposal, and it's one that we think that is manageable for the town. We obviously want to be cognizant of the challenges that the town is facing. There are fiscal partners. We talk frequently with the town manager and the finance director to really understand their challenges, and we think that a 3% increase is going to allow us to more or less maintain level services, but it's also reflective of some of the challenges the town is facing. To go back to our summary slide that I started with, and then I think it's important to continue to review the list here on the left-hand side, or areas that for potential investment. On the right-hand side are some variables that we will still need to consider in the weeks and days ahead. I think it was Mr. Hench, when we met with the select board, that really described the items on the left as some areas that we really should be funding. These are, rather than thinking about as just enhancements, these are things that really would help us meet the needs of students in 2025. So I think that's an important list for us to continue to look at. In particular, we need to understand the fiscal variables that are in front of us. The budget season is far from over. We're at the, even though we have potentially a voted budget by the school committee, a recommended budget to the select board, there's still plenty of decisions in front of us, and plenty of information that we still need to collect from the town and from the state. So For your consideration is a revised recommendation for your FY '26 budget. And I see Julie has her hand up.
Julie?
Yeah, Marty, I was just wondering, just because we only do this once a year, just remind us
Yeah.
of like what, because you were saying like we can do this if we want to, like what our options are here, because we don't have to take the select board's recommended or the town manager's recommendation, right?
Correct.
And then also, could you speak a little bit to like what this trades off against in the town's budget overall?
Sure. I'll start with the second part. I think what we heard from when we met with the select board and in our discussions with the town manager, I think they're balancing a lot of competing needs. I think, one of the needs that is at the top of their list is to adequately fund the DPW. I think they've had some service gaps there that they want to fill. They've had some staffing gaps that they want to fill, and it's certainly sympathetic to that need on the town side. I mean, obviously, we are supported by the facilities department, and, it's been a point of discussion that for us as well, just ensuring that we're taking care of the buildings and the classrooms. So that's the second part of your question. I turn to Mr. Mazza for the first part about the mechanics if the school committee chose to maintain its February 11th voted budget.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would put the town manager into a position where either we go to town meeting and have a conversation in regards to the school committee's request versus what the town manager has proposed. And then if town meeting supports the school committee's request, the town would have to go through and find additional 81,000 or so in order to balance the budget. I think, when we met with the town manager and hearing the needs that that are competing for all of the resources the town has, they were going to have to go back and try to adjust requests from the town departments in order to make it all fit within the total revenue picture for FY '26. So it would bring forward a situation where the town meeting would have to decide on what funding level to approve for the schools, and then force the town to possibly go back and adjust allocations on their side, depending upon the outcome at town meeting. Does that answer your question, Julie?
It does, and I think just on the piece at DPW, like, the posture here is like, nobody's getting everything they want, right? Like, it's not like we are meeting DPW's needs by taking from the schools. Everybody's like trying to work within a limit, and we're all trying to get the best services across like all the departments. That's kind of where we are, right?
Yeah, I think, as you hear regularly, there's limited amount of revenue to be divided up. And I would say every year, the needs and requests always exceed the revenue projection. So this is not a one-time FY '26 conversation. This is an annual dialogue that occurs between us, the town manager, the finance director, and all of the department heads.
And I think I'd add that we can safely say that other town departments were, forced to review their requests and trim their requests as they submitted their budgets to the town manager. So, yeah, I think all town departments are trying to, sort of work together to kind of recognize the competing needs.
Any other questions or comments?
How do you feel about first of all, thank you so much. I can't imagine going through everything that we went through and then the town coming back and saying, hey, I know we said this, but can we trim a little more? Going back through that must have been, like trying to shave your face right after you shave your face. Brutal. But I mean, those, just looking at some of those line items there, I can't say I understand all of them. Like the ELL coordination, I feel like that's an area that needs lots of coordination, and so I
you say that that's up there and that's something that we can do, but how do you feel about these cuts as far as their impact to the deliverables of education in the town?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you have to go back and revise down your requests, your allocation for services, I think the approach we took was, one, trying to keep it away from the classroom directly. You know, obviously, all of these have an indirect relationship to what goes on in the classroom. So that was, I think, our first priority. Our second priority was trying to minimize staffing reductions.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, the EL coordination, I think, as Marty indicated, like through Nilda Irizarry's increased capacity understanding of the program and involvement over the last year, especially through the ELL review that we had. I think it'll provide some additional opportunity where she can fill in where this stipend was providing those services. So, you know, the goal would be to have these, as much as I would not want to have to do them, I think in order to proceed in a compromise, collaborative approach with the town, I think we can get by without feeling a substantial impact on the services we deliver.
I'm just thinking about athletics too, because I don't know about you guys, but the thing that I hear the most from people, they stop me on the street while I'm walking my dog and they say, what the heck are you guys doing with athletics? The amount, you know, the fees, the uniforms, the everything. So I mean, taking another $10,000 out of athletics, I don't know how the committee feels, but I don't know if that's something that we want to bring to the town so we understand their priorities.
If I could, the reason it's on there is we did, through the supplemental budget, add an additional $30,000 back earlier this year when the town approved an increased allocation for us in the fall. The budget you approved earlier also include a small increase.
Right.
This reduction now is basically wiping that out.
Right.
So we are still going to be at a greater funding level than we were at our original FY25 budget by about $35,000. So that conversation is still ongoing in Finance Hub, and I have a feeling it's not going to end this year. It will be an ongoing conversation for years to come. Because I think, similar to the conversation we had earlier, it's not something we're going to resolve in one budget cycle. It is going to be, I think, a slow progression to trying to get funding, either to the level that supports the program effectively, or adjusting the program. But those are conversations, I think, that we need more information to help provide some educated information.
And I would think it's fair to say that a budget is a budget. The actuals and the performance are the actuals and the performance. So I think the challenge is, this is what you're laying out there is what we need you to stay within, but that's not the true goal. The true goal is significantly less than what's being laid out, and to reduce the expenses in order to not increase the fees. But that's not easier, you know,
No.
it's not easy. You're gonna make a decision to do one thing for the other thing, and we gotta make sure we're all in agreement. So that particular committee is just looking through, okay, if we did this, what does it do to this? Okay, if we did this, what? And then gotta come back to the overall committee and say, okay, we can go this direction, but here's what results, you know? So there's work to be done there. I mean, that doesn't make me that nervous, because I'm more worried about the actuals, not the budget. The budget's the budget.
Okay.
You know, that's not what I think is the target right now. I think the target's
That
gonna
makes
be
me feel
less.
better.
The one thing I was question about the supplies line, what percentage of that is the supplies line, the 13 grand that you threw up there?
Well, so the money that we're proposing, that 13,000 reduction. So a few years back, for K-8, we added a $10 per student increase to help address with the consumable supplies that we were asking families for. About 9,000 of that is reducing it down from $10 to $5. So schools are still getting above and beyond the allocation we give them for their discretionary funds.
Okay.
With the exception of the high school, where they received about 160,000, I did ask them to cut 4,000. So the combined 9 for the consumables in K-8 and the 4 at the high school is what makes up that 13. Percentage-wise,
Is it like a big percentage,
it's
or?
a very small percentage of the overall. The other piece is, every year, we don't spend out our full allocation.
Yeah.
I know they give us line items again for the budget, and we have some flexibility in how we can move it around. But again, I think a small percentage of the overall discretionary funds that are available to the schools.
So it's probably just gonna tighten the end of the year where we're trying to fill up a cabinet to prepare for the following
Yes.
year because we can.
Yes.
It's just gonna tighten that up a little
Yeah,
bit.
there might be less money available to make
That's
end-of-year
fine.
purchases.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure. I figured that's what it was. But basically, just the end of the year, you might have $500 versus $2,000 left to be able to buy at center school or whatever. No, that's fine. Okay.
Can I
Good with that.
put one final point on that, on the athletic reduction that's proposed there? Just to be clear, we don't see this translating into higher fees, and we definitely don't see it translating into reduced service for our student athletes. So we think we can achieve some efficiency in the areas of transportation or site management in ways that won't affect the overall service level of the program, so.
Julie?
I just want to ask, I think, Marty, you alluded to this earlier, but I know like Jake Olvera and others have been pushing really hard for different funding levels from the states. So if it shakes out that we get more money, we would go back and just adjust this back up, right?
Similar to last year where the committee put together, after agreement with the town, put together a supplemental budget reflective of the increased aid levels. So yes, correct. That would be my hope.
Yeah, it would have to be done through town meeting through an additional appropriation like what occurred this past fall, Julie.
Okay.
That'd be nice if we had more money.
Yes, it would be.
I'm hopeful.
Yes.
In all aspects of life.
Yes, definitely.
When you're 25, too, it's very helpful. Yeah, yeah.
Anyone have any other questions or comments? If not, maybe a recommended motion?
I move that the school committee approve the FY26 proposed revised school department budget in the amount of $44,776,482.92, with a general fund allocation of $41,394,307.44, and submit this amount to the town manager for inclusion in the annual town meeting on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Adam?
Yay.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Estelle?
Yes.
And yes for me as well. All right, so that leaves us with just one final motion to put us into executive session, right? Is that?
Yep.
So moved. Can we just do that?
I think
No, I think
that
it was
one we
read the
have
whole
to.
That one we have to.
Yeah.
I don't see
motion's
that.
on.
The motion.
Oh, it's not on.
I motion that the school committee adjourn the general meeting to visit an executive session to review or conduct a strategy session in preparation for collective bargaining with units A, B, C, D, E, F, and H.
And you can add the second part of that as well.
And to comply, pardon, just had to clear my throat, to comply with the provisions of any general or special law of federal grant in aid requirements under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, 23B, Section 1 through 7, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22G. Consideration of release of executive session minutes from previous meetings, February 25th, 2025, and March 11th, 2025.
All right, we have a motion.
Ish.
Second?
Second.
Awesome. Adam?
Yay.
Jamie?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Estelle?
Yes.
And yes for me too. Have a good evening.
Have a good night, guys.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you.
Don't do drugs.